Hello, and welcome to my studio. I'm really glad you stopped by. I'd like to start maybe having some conversations, not political in nature, not taking sides of today's issues, but just kind of considering what's going on. How do we deal with it? What do we find helpful? And I'd love to have your interaction in comments. And I thought it might just be interesting to see what we come up with, how we can support one another, what kind of insights we can share with each other. We're certainly in challenging times. Some would say we're in troubling times. Maybe the only thing that comes close to it is what those of us who are old enough to remember experienced in the late 60s, early 70s with the tumult we had then. But in some ways, this is much more significant. Personally, I think we're moving into a very different sensibility and awareness of consciousness and of each other. And as alarming as it could be for some, or uncomfortable and disorienting, and certainly is all those things, it may actually be a huge opportunity to reconsider some things, step up our game, and envision a new way of doing things. Personally, I usually stay with things much longer than I should before I get out of Dodge. So this is kind of pushing me to look at what's going on. And I think we need to really take care of ourselves from what I'm listening to and researching and hearing. June of 2020 was very interesting, but hang on to your hats because we've got another interesting 6 months to go through at a minimum, if not probably the next 3 or 4 years before we truly come on the other side of this transition that we're in. We've already jumped the tracks, so to speak. We've already moved from what we knew this time last year onto a very different path. And we're never going to be able to go back and capture where we were last year. I mean, you never can truly do that anyway. But our perceptions, our perspectives, our experiences, they've all been tampered with. And I think we need to be really diligent and discerning with whether we're deciding what direction we go in, or whether we're being ushered or forced into a reaction or a response. And that takes a great deal of time, energy, awareness. And for some of us right now, we have a lot of that. We've been gifted with that. And I think part of what the pandemic has done for us is it, for a time, mandated that we look at what was going on. How are you living your life? before you and your family were put into lockdown? You know, what has changed since then? And has it changed for the better? You know, we're kind of as if we started out with a blank canvas, and we get to decide what goes on the canvas. We get to decide, and we do. Some people would want us to think that we don't get to decide. But we're sovereign beings. We get to decide how we respond to what's going on around us. So we get to choose the subject matter. We get to choose the colors. We get to choose whether it's a happy painting or a sad painting, in my case. How are you choosing? Have you thought about that at all? You know, what's different in your life today that wasn't before this whole pandemic kicked off? Are there things you really miss and you're going to work at retrieving? Or did you maybe think the job you're still haven't gone back to, maybe you're thinking, yeah, maybe it's not, maybe I wasn't really happy with that job. Maybe I didn't like it. Maybe this is an opportunity to look elsewhere, to find something else, to start my own business, to create something that I'm passionate about. What if that's the opportunity being presented to us? What if the opportunity is we get to step out of the lockstep, the whole jobs issue that we jumped into because we had a mortgage, we had children, we had a car payment. We still have all those things. But it's like somebody hit the pause button and you get to re-examine that. Do you want to just go back into what you stepped out of a couple months ago? And if you have already gone back, how does that feel? Are you enthused? Are you passionate about it? Is it just okay? Is it, I don't really like it, but my bills piled up over the past few months? Not a whole lot of easy answers, but it's certainly worth looking at. We may just have an opportunity to create the future we want. Not necessarily the future we were handed or that we grew into out of necessity. Have you thought about if we're really at this tipping point where things can change? Have you thought about how you would like them to change? What would your ideal world be? What do you want to have? What do you want for your children, for your grandchildren, for your neighbors, for the country? You know, as all of this anger and really vitriol that we're seeing spewed at one another right now, it's kind of like a hurricane. It has to spin until it finally loses its power. But if we continue to live in fear if we continue to allow ourselves to be our freedoms impinged, if we continue to give up our sovereignty for supposed safety, I don't know. It's all out there. What do you want your world to look like in the next year, 2 years, 3 years from now? What kind of country do you want to live in? And how do we create that with one another? Can we learn how to listen to each other again? Can we learn how to really have conversations with each other rather than just, throwing out our opinion and that's it? Either we do what I think we need to do, or I'm not talking to you. Where does that get us? All things to think about. And for me, I keep saying, how do I maintain my balance in all of this? That's what's really difficult sometimes. There's days you just want to go, oh my Lord, what do I do? Or you just want to throw up your hands and say, I've had enough. And I think we need to be very cognizant of how well we take care of ourselves. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we running all that fear through our body on a regular basis? I've gotten to the point that I know there's certain things I don't listen to anymore. I won't, I might look over the headline and be aware, but I'm not going to electrify my body with what they want me to feel or what fear I should have. We still have free choice right now. And how we respond to what's going on is critical. I need to maintain my balance. And that was the real purpose of today's video. I was sitting the other day in the garden having coffee, and I thought, the one thing that helps me balance is I need to immerse myself regularly in beauty. I just find it so soothing. It kind of eases the anxiety or the tension that I might be feeling at the time. How do you do that? What works for you? Share it in the comments. You might really be able to help someone, and it might be you soak in a hot tub for an hour a couple times a week. I walk the beach as much as I possibly can. It might be you listen to your kids giggling about something silly, and that just rights your ship as it is. We're sailing in very confused seas, and it's difficult to keep an even keel. So what helps you? For me, it's gardening. I picked a bowl of green beans this morning, or I cut flowers and made an arrangement just to remind me when I walk by it, all's not lost. We'll get through this. But take your ownership of how it is we do get through this. Because it's not all determined. Don't give your power over to somebody else. You know, it's your blank canvas. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to say on it? What emotions are you going to invest in it? You know, how do you surround yourself in beauty? Maybe it's a wonderful needlepoint pillow that sits on your sofa that just gives you such pleasure. Maybe it's a piece of art that you look at several times a day. Maybe it's the view out of your kitchen window. Become cognizant of that. Acknowledge it. Offer up gratitude for it. And as we move through this, try and be aware of what's my intention? What kind of world do I want to contribute building going forward? What am I going to do on the blank canvas? Is it going to be emotional? Is it going to be all straight lines and rational? Nothing wrong with that. We need structure. Is it going to be abstract? And well, I kind of know, but I can't put it into words. I can't put it into a picture. What a great opportunity we have. You know, it's like somebody unbooted the computer and we get to upload a whole new program. What's your program look like? What do you want easier? You know, what do you want for everyone else in the world? You know, can we do it without the hatred, without the finger pointing, without the labeling of each other? Can we have conversations with each other and maybe come to some understanding? May begin to see a new path, someplace we hadn't seen before, one we didn't even know existed, but somebody says, well, you know, if you look over there, that would take us in a whole different direction. Be patient with yourself. Take care of yourself. Be patient with each other. And be aware. Be conscious of what's going on. It's probably not the time for us to live by default. We may not like what the universe serves up to us. So if I find myself saying, you know, I'm just too busy, I'm too stressed, I can't see my way clear, I can't think about it because I just get angry. Whatever your default setting is, it's a luxury we may not be able to afford right now. How do we get the world we want? And more immediately, how do we maintain our balance, our well-being, and our health in the process? Know that you're never truly really alone. there are all kinds of support and help that we're just not even aware of. There's always something to be grateful for. And in any given moment, you have power. It may be the power to choose between the worst of two options, but you still have the power, and don't relinquish it. But I'm really hopeful, and where I come from is that we're on a precipice where we can do a huge upgrade for humanity. We can make some really elegant, wonderful choices. And we need to seize that opportunity. We need to move through our day, for me, with gratitude and as much love and compassion as I can muster. And hold on to the intention that I have in the kind of world I want to create. Just like I can't finish a painting if I don't have a vision to begin with. And that changes from each color I mix and each brush I pick up, and accidents that happen that are delightful. You know, life is a series of decisions and choices. So think about your canvas. What do you want to start painting? Because it is an incredible time right now to be able to design where your life is going to go and what your world is going to look like. So thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. If you appreciate this kind of conversation, if you'd like to see more of them, I would love to hear your comments, and maybe do something like this every couple of weeks and kind of create a dialogue somewhere we can talk and brainstorm and share with one another what works for us. What do we want to see? There's a wonderful phrase, what if? Maybe we just need to go through our day and say, what if? Thank you for being here. Blessings.